Hi football fans, my name is Cillian O'Grady, the Irish Flying Canary and a long-time Norwich City fan. Welcome to the first edition of the Beyond the Barclay podcast focused on travelling supporters, O'Grady Away Days. In this episode we will focus on the city of Bristol and specifically the Robins, Bristol City Football Club. I know along with many other Norwich fans we are looking forward to our trip to Bristol on Friday night. This podcast will hopefully give you an insight into getting to Ashton Gate and back home safely and enjoying all that Bristol has to offer. And given that the Robins are due to host Watford, Sunderland and Preston before the end of the season, this will hopefully serve as a useful guide to other supporters too. There are probably not going to be many of us flying to the match, unless some of the other international Canaries or Robins fans are planning this trip. Although I have heard a rumour that Rory McConville's dad might make the trip over from Belfast, and maybe some of Jason Knight's family might travel over from Dublin. Anyway, for anyone flying to Bristol, the airport is well connected to the city using the A1 Flyer bus that goes to Templemead Station. You can hop off at Parson Street if you want to stop reasonably close to the ground. Of course, I'm no expert on Bristol, so I'm delighted to be joined by two very special guests on the show who can no doubt give us a much better insight. A member of the South West Canaries based in Bristol, Tom Chambers, and Bristol City fan, Liam Fowler. You're both very welcome to the show. So, maybe you'd like to introduce yourselves. Let's start with you, Liam.
My name's Liam Fowler. Been a long time suffering Bristol City fan since the age of 5, I believe it was, when my first game. Yeah, just through and through, ups and downs, mainly just a level playing field these days with just us. Mid-table mediocrity. Hopefully it'll change this year.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's too many drop points from winning positions for my liking, but it's one of those, isn't it? You'll take the rough with the smooth, as they say.
Well, meet the team who's got the record for that this season.
So you're speaking to the wrong team about that.
Yeah, so we've got to be pushing you close. We've dropped quite a few points from winning positions late in games as well.
Story of our season, I think, as well. Tom, do you want to tell us about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I live in Bristol, originally from Norfolk, season ticket holder. At Norwich, I've lived in Bristol for 14 years or so now. And we've always had the bragging rights in the South West. And I'm starting to think that might be on the turn. Eagerly awaiting Friday's game.
Lovely. So maybe, Liam, you could tell us about your match day ritual. Obviously, you go to Ashton Gate, I assume, quite a bit. What does a football match day look like for you?
It takes about an hour and 20 minutes. So what I usually do is I drive from here. The route I usually take takes down through Bath, go around the outskirts of Bath, not through the city centre because it's a nightmare at times. The A4 straight past Keynsham into Brislington, and I usually get on the park and ride.
Okay.
So it usually takes about an hour and 20, between an hour and 20 and an hour and a half to get down there, depending on what traffic's like. Tend to get there for the first bus, which is usually about 12, 2.5 hours before kick-off. And you get off Winterstoke Road, literally right by the KFC, right outside the ground. 30-second walk from the bus stop, and then obviously after the game, back out there. Bit of a queue to get on the park and ride, but it's for me, I find it quite easy. Straight on the bus, and then you're straight on the A4 on the way home, away from the traffic already. So that's what I usually do. On the rarity, I get the train from Salisbury straight to Templemead, and then about 40-minute walk from Templemead across to Ashton Gate. Couple hours if you stop at every pub like we tend to on the way through. But yeah, it's either or. It's either I drive, get the park and ride, or train into Templemead from Salisbury and then walk across.
I've always struggled leaving Ashton Gate to do anything except walk back into the city. I mean, so there must be some secret to getting that park and ride bus, is there?
Wow, there is 3. I think there is 3 different park and rides. You've got the 82, which goes to Brislington. You do have one that goes over to Templemead, and I think you've got Parkway as well. So AG 1, 2, and 3 of them there, they're called. But yeah, luckily for me, I think they all pretty much drop off at the same sort of point. I'm not sure about the Templemead. I kind of don't know off the top of my head where that one drops you off, but it does take straight to the station, so that's easily done.
Super. And Tom, I'm sure you've got your rituals. I don't know how often you get to Ashton Gate. Do you ever go when it's Norwich are not playing with any of your pals?
I have been. I have been for my sins. We featured 3 times last season, or sorry, last calendar year, including the League Cup. So I have been probably more often than I'd like over recent years. But our match day ritual, I would say for the South West Canaries. So there's 50 strong coming on Friday. So we usually go to the Spotted Cow down on North Street there. As you said, Liam, it's not close to Bristol City Centre. I think that's what sometimes people forget. They think, oh, Bristol City away, we'll go to Bristol City Centre, and then when you actually put it in your phone, it's like 45-minute walk.
Yeah, it's a good half-hour walk at least, depending on how many beers you've had. Or should I say ciders, being in the southwest.
Yeah, so we usually head down early-ish. I mean, of course, being a Friday night game, it's going to give it a little bit of an extra edge to it. I think, as I said to you earlier, Cillian, my Bristol City supporting friends are already starting on the goading, shall we say? So they'll be ready and up for it from fairly early on Friday. But yeah, we usually get a taxi down. I live in northeast Bristol, so which is Rovers land, which we say that quietly. So I usually get a taxi down from here. And
I think Liam needs a drink there. He's got a bit of a cough,
Yeah,
I think.
The swearing in this household. It's like me saying Ipswich.
Who? Sorry, I've got...
They're the Premier League team, I think.
All right.
Oh, isn't it?
Not bad.
We're allowing swearing on this podcast. I thought it was a family show.
You started it.
Excellent. So in terms of any particular pubs, Liam, that you and your colleagues frequent?
So if we usually go, so when we get the park and ride, we usually go straight to the Heineken bar at the ground, situated between the south stand and the land stand. I'm pretty sure the away fans can go in there. I've seen them in there before. They've got the big screen in there. You probably see it all over. You've probably seen it a lot of GIFs and memes on Twitter where everyone's throwing a beer. That big screen, that's at Ashton Gate.
Okay, well.
When I was younger, really I support cities. My dad was in the Air Force. His best friend from the Air Force lived in Hengrove, and they were season ticket holders, so we used to come down quite often. We used to go to the Robins, which is about a 5-minute walk to the ground. It is still there. Or if we don't go there, we go round the corner from the ground to the Three Lions. That's usually my go-to places, but predominantly I just head straight to the ground, go into the sports bar, possibly watch the early kick-off on the big screen, get a burger outside in the fan village bit, and yeah, it just goes from there really. But mainly it's for me it's the Heineken bar at the ground.
And would you recommend the burgers outside there?
Yeah, for me, yeah, I do love them. You can't go to football without having a greasy burger. I think they've got quite a few good little food stands there. They've got fish and chips, they've got churros, they've got a live band that plays. So I'd like to think the entertainment before the game and stuff it's quite a good atmosphere.
Okay, and it's welcoming for both home and away fans.
Yeah. I mean, I think there is a bit of a fan village down the away end, on the Atio where the away fans are situated. But there's always, like I said, there's a live band playing right outside the south stand on a little stage themselves, and there's always plenty of away fans, pop-up bars outside as well. So there are always away fans there before soaking up the atmosphere before the game and stuff, before they head down to the Atio.
Can I ask, Liam, is there a group of fans that you meet regularly?
Times, like I said, keep them close. So my dad's best friend, he lives up in Preston now, so he doesn't really get to many home games. But I still meet up with his in-laws. Still meet up with them sometimes. They sit in the Lansdowne, which is the newer, bigger stand, shall I say, the biggest one at the ground. But usually when I go, it's usually my 12-year-old and my partner's daughter, who's 12 as well. So it's usually just sort of, we go in, the kids will be kids, they want to go in straight away and watch the warm-up and things like that. But the good thing that they do at Bristol City is they have interactive zones inside, so they have like penalty shootouts for kids, different little things they can do as well. So the kids like to go in there and do that. They tend to get a pie as well. They like a steak and ale pie on the inside. So usually if I take the kids, we go straight under the concourse and they do all the interactive stuff inside and see the shop and what have you. That's normally what I tend to do.
It'd be an expensive day out for you then, can it?
Yeah, fuel included, I'm probably looking at between 150 and 200 quid each time we go.
Wow. What about you, Tom? When you have a drink, do you get something to eat as well?
Oh yeah, I think adding to the match day ritual as an away fan at Ashton Gate, so we tend to sort of amble down North Street towards the ground, and there's loads of great places down North Street anyway. But I think, Liam, to your point about football day and a burger, I don't think you can beat Ooey Burger on the way down to the ground, which is just fantastic. So yeah, I think if that's the only thing anybody takes away from this fun this afternoon, I think it would definitely be Ooey Burger on the way down to the ground. Yeah, to be fair, I mean, there's loads of little sort of local independence places down on North Street on your walk down to the ground from towards the away end. The good thing about Ashton Gate is that you can access it from sort of multiple sides. So Liam, as you were saying, where you get the park and ride to, as more of the home end, if you like.
Yeah.
The away end, you tend to sort of come in from sort of the North Street side of Bristol. There's loads of places down there, some really good bars and local sort of breweries and stuff like that down there as well, which are good, definitely good on a match day.
Very good, very good. And in terms of the experience before the match, there's a lot of fans like to meet the players. Is that something that's easy or hard to do at Bristol?
The coaches tend to come in where the away end is. The players' entrance is down that end. If you get there early enough, you can get a good spot, and the players sometimes stop and sign autographs and things like that. As for meeting them as such, I wouldn't say it was something that they go out their way to do, which is a shame for the younger kids. But apart from probably where they get off the coaches before the game, usually about 1 o'clock, I think they usually get there. So if you're there in good time for that, then yeah, there is a good chance you can get some pictures and stuff, depending on what mood they're in, I suppose.
I'm sure they'll be in fairly decent humour at this stage, the way the season's looking.
Well, fingers crossed it carries on.
And in terms of for Norwich fans going to their first game in Ashton Gate, I'm sure there'll be some there and won't have been there before. Is there any chance they're likely to hear from the Bristol fans?
It's an awkward one. The one thing I will say about the atmosphere at Ashton Gate is they've got the S82, which is classed as the singing section, which when you're an away fan, it's down the far end by the corner flag. Unless they get the place going, the atmosphere can be a bit dull at times. I have to admit that. But it's the usual things. It's things like you'll probably hear the Scott Tyne song. You hear Howard's got his own song now, the Japanese international we signed. Obviously, 8 Men Had a Dream. There's about 8 players that ripped their contract to save the football club in the 80s. So they've got their own little chant going for that. And obviously, all the younger generation drum up the newer ones these days. It's quite generic. I suppose a lot of them are the same. A lot of clubs, just a few tweaks here and there. But the main ones are, you'll hear City Alley, you'll hear that one, and probably 8 Men Had a Dream. You'll hear that one without a doubt.
Okay. And Tom, what sort of rendition will the South West Canaries have to entertain the Bristol fans?
Well, it depends whether our friends with the drum will be attending on Friday night or not. But to serenade the Bristol City fans, I don't know, perhaps we forgot that you were here or you're supposed to be at home. I'm not entirely sure which one we'll choose. No, to be fair, Liam's right that, the atmosphere at Ashton Gate is a tough one because the home fans in the singing section are as far away from the away support as they can be, really. And I've got friends that have sat in the home end and we've felt like we've sung all game in the away end. And they've said, whether they go to me or not, I'm not sure. But they said, no, genuinely, we couldn't hear you. Whereas in the old away stand, as it is at Ashton Gate, it's quite, it's that corrugated roof, the noise sort of traps in there quite nicely. But it just gets, it can just get lost in that stadium. But I get a feeling it's not going to be quiet on Friday night. I'm not expecting it to be a quiet one, if I'm completely honest.
There's a few of the older generation that have been trying to move. They call it the old A block, which is so where the away fans sit. You've got the Dolman on your left. I think it's E34. It's classes now. There's quite a few of the older generation, and they're trying to drum up a bit of atmosphere in there, trying to get people down that end to get a bit of atmosphere going there. If it's close to a sellout and it's going well on the pitch, I thought it can be quite a daunting place to play. You just got to look at when we played Middlesbrough the other week. Tommy Conway, obviously coming back to play against us after he left us in the summer, made some comments in the pre-match radio interview we did it on Teesside didn't go down too well, and I think everyone heard it, and they made it quite known during the game, and it was quite a good atmosphere on that day. But yeah, normally, like Tom says, been an away fan. I've sat in SA. I usually sit in the south stand or just to the other side on the dolman, which is on the touchline there. Sometimes you can't hear. You'll see on Twitter or X, or as you want to call it now, where the away fans are like, we didn't stop singing, but you literally sometimes cannot hear them.
Okay.
And you'll think, that's rubbish, but it's all down to the atmosphere. It's the aesthetics of it and whatever. Yeah. But Tom's completely right. Where the old away end was the Wedlock, which is where the south stand is, complete opposite to the patio. It had that sort of, the roof sort of, it came back on itself, so it did echo the noise, and that's where the away fans used to be, in that corner. And they used to have the home fans next to them. But the Atio, where they've redeveloped the stadium, the Atio stands on its own entity, whereas the rest of the ground's connected. So it makes sense to have the Atio as just the away fans section.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, it varies from stadium to stadium. I personally think it's always a little bit better when the louder home fans are closer to the away fans. It gets the bit of banter going.
Totally agree.
Anyway, in terms of being a Friday night, it's a long way to Norwich from Bristol. I'm sure some number of people will be staying. Now, it's probably a little bit late to be booking anywhere to stay, but what part of Bristol would you recommend people stay in?
I think it depends on how much culture you're looking for, Cillian. I think if you're a quieter fan, perhaps, that wants to go for a nice walk, so, sort of the Clifton area of Bristol is really nice. You've got Clifton Suspension Bridge, and you've got some really nice sort of culture around that area. If you want something slightly more cultural and sophisticated, then you'll stay in Bristol City Centre, where there's the likes of Pop World on a Friday night after the game. Yeah, I think it depends on what you're looking for. But yeah, I mean, Bristol generally has got loads of places to stay. I know a couple of guys are staying out sort of on the outskirts of the city just because of prices, really, being a Friday night. But yeah, generally I would say anywhere from sort of the outskirts to Bedminster itself or Bristol City Centre is pretty good for a spot to stay.
Anything to comment on there or add to that, Liam? Any suggestions on your end?
I think Tom's pretty spot on with that. I think it will change when the club have been given permission to build a hotel close to the ground and amongst like a conference arena and basketball arena and things. So I think it might change when that's finally happens. I think it's a 190-room hotel they're building quite close to the ground. So until that happens, I think Tom hit it nail on the head there with places to go.
Lovely. Last thing, just in terms of fan safety, obviously everybody wants to go and enjoy a game, irrespective of the result. Is there anything travelling fans should be careful about, or anywhere they shouldn't venture?
I'd say no, but you're not gonna. I'll get shot for that if people hear that. But I can't. You won't go near it. I think in and around the ground, I think you're okay. Teams that come down really and you get trouble with the Cardiff and the Swanseas. I don't think Norwich will be any trouble. They're quite good at segregating the fans because obviously, as I mentioned before, the Atio's its own entity. They usher the away fans out towards as Tom was saying, the North Street side of Bristol, and don't really see many home fans going amongst them, if that makes sense. But I'd say safety-wise, I don't think there'd be any problems whatsoever.
Lovely, Tom. You'd agree?
I was just going to say that at the start we talked about the park and ride, but I think the reason why you might not have seen it is because you'd have to turn left out the away end and left again essentially round the home end. They tend to usher away fans out and right of the ground. So I think anybody getting the park and ride from the away end would have to try and make their way back round to the left of the away end and back round the front of the stadium. But to be honest, I think Bristol's a great city. I think most, as it's the same everywhere you go. Most people are there just to enjoy the football. I don't think there's any malice, and like you said, Lee, you're going to get much trouble with Norwich fans. I mean, as long as we don't win, I think it should be an easy walk back to an ale house afterwards.
And finally, I know, Liam, you mentioned the blue team close to us. I'd be really curious to hear about the blue team closer to yourselves. Tell us a little bit about that rivalry. I know you don't play each other very often.
It goes back years. Obviously, we burnt and they're famous as gas heads, burnt down their stadium. It built the old gasworks, I think, many years ago. I think they're quite irrelevant to us these days. You just got to look at the Bristol edition Monopoly. They didn't make it onto it, but Bristol Manor Farm, who played Southern League football, did. So, as far as I'm concerned, Rovers don't even exist. They make a little bit of noise. Got a few of our rejects playing for him, like Taylor Moore, Chris Martin, Jack Hunt. Apart from that, there's no... Obviously, it's an inner city rivalry. Obviously, when the chance does, it seems like the League Cup and the FA Cup, we were hoping to get them at home.
Yeah.
They think they're the bigger team. They're not. There's no two ways about it. You just got to look at where they play football. It's horrible.
It was. We were hoping it was going to get called off. I think that FA Cup game.
Yeah. Did they have their new stand open at the time behind the goal?
Yeah. It was the trial event, and it was in the new stand, and there was no sides on it, and the wind was
just howling.
Yeah, it was.
A friend of mine's a season ticket at Lake Loring, and I went down there with him when they played. It was just before they opened that stand, and when the floodlights were shining, you could see the shadow of the stand on the pitch right across the 18-yard area. It was ridiculous. It just said it all, really. It was just a laughing stock.
Well, listen, we're coming to the end. I really appreciate both of you for making the effort to turn up and have a chat with me this evening. And for any fans at home that have any alternative suggestions of things to do, places to go. Actually, that reminds me, is there anything outside of football you'd recommend as a must-do thing in Bristol?
I like, especially summer months, maybe not so much now, I like going down to the dockside. There's a couple of boats down there you can have some drinks on and stuff. There's quite a few bars, eating places along the docks there. But that's where I like to go personally if I'm staying a little bit later after the game.
What about you,
So Clifton Suspension Bridge is the sort of, I guess, the postage stamp of Bristol for many. So that's definitely probably more of a day after the game walk with a coffee and a bit of a headache. Going to see that perhaps, but yeah, no, definitely the sort of Bristol City Centre. If you're making your way back in after the game, I'm sure on a Friday night it won't be quiet.
Yeah, lovely. Well, listen, thank you again, and enjoy the game on Friday.
Thanks, Cillian.
Thank you. Well done.
That's it for this episode of Beyond the Barclay. Thanks so much for listening. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and leave a review if you enjoyed the show. You can also catch all our episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. And if you've got any questions, stories, or topics you'd like us to cover, get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, on the ball, City.